Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. It's Benny's Finance Dog. On every Sunday, we preview the upcoming market conditions, give you the news, as well as go over the charts for SPY, QQQ, and Apple. We got a shortened week with a Labor Day holiday on Monday, only 4 days, but let's get into it. Looking at the economic calendar, with it being such a light week, we have obviously nothing coming out on Monday with the markets being closed, and Tuesday and Wednesday also are fairly light. Have some factory orders numbers coming out, should just shine some light onto the manufacturing industry as far as what is being ordered. That could be a good signal for future GDP growth and just overall sales growth in the economy. And then on Wednesday, we do have the Beige Book coming out, which is more qualitative than quantitative information on the 12 basically federal regions of the US. So, insight into how hiring is going, labor is going, prices, inflation, things of all that nature from a qualitative standpoint. So, it's an interesting read, though it is previous data, could shine some light on the Fed's decision in a couple weeks here. So, something to keep an eye on. Back half of the week gets a little bit more in terms of actionable reports. We do have the jobs numbers, which should influence the market, and then a gauntlet of Fed speakers on Thursday, starting at 6 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, going all the way to 4 p.m. Tons of speakers. I doubt that they're going to come out and say anything that is going to be vastly different than what Jay Powell was saying at Jackson Hole. So just keep an eye on that unless they do say something weird. Market currently right now is pricing in a fairly high chance of another rate hike in the Fed meeting in 2 weeks. We have obviously jobs data, the Beige Book, factory orders numbers, as well as CPI next week that could all point to confirming that. Um, Pretty much everyone is of the mindset that the Fed is going to raise yet again next meeting, but that's a couple weeks away. We want to just focus on this week. Let's head over to the charts so we can do some analysis from a monthly and weekly perspective. Starting with SPY, we can see that we finally had the August candle close. Interesting thing here, I have read this somewhere about a 50% line of the previous candle being a good spot to kind of see if a bullish or bearish trend will continue. As we can see on this July candle, the midpoint was 450.35. At least if we take the open and the close and the midpoint between those two, so the middle of the candle, and we closed exactly at 450.35 in August, which indicates nothing, right? It doesn't indicate bullish, it doesn't indicate bearish, it literally falls on that, and it's just a good example of why some of these rules of thumb are more like guidelines than official rules. But based on the huge wick that we have in August pushing up, we can see that there's plenty of buyers still in the market, especially down at this 435, 433 level. So as September begins, I'd like to see us come down and probably retest that, or at least retest this 445 level, kind of give back some of the gains of last week. Last week, obviously, the market pushed up to kind of close. If we kind of look at the weekly here, we could see the market pushed back and took back a lot of those losses that had given up through, the first couple of weeks of August. The last 2 weeks of August were generally pretty positive for the market and took back a lot of those losses that were generated the first 3 weeks. So love to see that. Would like to see it continue. Did see kind of a lid be put on the move up at that 453 level. We did close above 450 last week, closing at 451.19 through obviously the first, right? So the monthly candle closed at that 450.35, but we did have one more trading day and we closed above 450, which is generally bullish on this particular run. So look to see if that continues for SPY. If we're going to the upside, we'd look to see, 455, 453, 457, which has been resistance in the past, all the way up to 460 as an area to get rejected if we do just kind of continue the move of last week. We did have a down day, down couple of days to close out the week last week. So down Friday, down Monday may hold true for SPY to keep a look on that. Switching over to the Qs, we have a similar story developing here, right? We did close above that 50% mark for the body between July and August, which is bullish. Huge wick up down from those 355 levels all the way to close at 377. So huge push up back in tech in the month of August, and then obviously September started a little bit down. But we can see if a retest at that 370 level in the Qs is going to be significant, 372 specifically for the Qs to bounce. Of course, 375 is on watch, and then on to the upside, 380 for a cap, 382, 385, 388, all the way up to 390 is what we're looking for on the month. Switching over to the week, we just see kind of confirmation of what we've seen before. Obviously, the Qs took back even more of the losses that were generated in early August as we push towards, those highs. Let's see if we do get some type of resistance forming at that 383 level, 384, right? I would expect that we rise up and push down on that. September should be a kind of down month, right? So if we're looking at the waves, as we come down, right, we come back up, retest this 382 level, 383 level, push back down, right, and then maybe get a further move down to this, eventual test of 350. I think we need to test 350 at some point in the month of September on the Qs. That's just me. Before, if we want to set up for a good October, November, December, that's just me. And last but not least, switching over to Apple. Apple, of course, has been doing well. They did not actually capture the 50% of the previous month of July, but July was a tiny, tiny wick. So if we go back to June, we did close above the 50% mark of June, which is generally bullish, right? Another huge wick up for Apple, which is great to see. On the monthly chart in this September month, I could see us coming back down and retesting this 185 level once again. Even as low as 180 before we turn around and continue towards new highs. As I said before, the new iPhone's coming out in a couple weeks. I think that initial day of sales news might be sold off, but it could also propel it forward if Apple comes out of the gates and way more phones are purchased than expected. I think it's kind of like if expectations are met or if they sell less than they should, then we'll downtrend. But if we blow the phone sales out of the water, then Apple will continue to make new highs, finally break that 200 level that's been elusive since making highs in mid-July. Looking at the weekly, right, we had a super, super strong week last week. What a week, man. Going all the way from, 178 to closing at 189.46. Quite the week for Apple. We'll see if that continues up. If we do break 190, I'd like to see 193 get tested and likely rejected, right? I do think we need to come back down, retest this 185 level, potentially 180 before we turn around and go. That being said, it is the beginning of the month for all of these charts, so we could see, the money coming in a positive fashion, and just obviously everything rises up before maybe next week with the CPI numbers heading down. Play it day by day for sure. Tuesday might be a stay away day, as the Labor Day market's sleeping, and once it wakes up on Tuesday, it could be a little erratic. So trade with a plan. As always, I hope you make your own plan for the week. We'll be back next week, of course, with another preview for the market and conditions. But until then, thanks for watching, and like and subscribe for more content. Woof woof.